5.7 magnitude earthquake jolts entire country. At least 6 people, including 3 in Dhaka, died nationwide. Experts emphasize taking steps immediately to keep losses at minimum. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus expressed profound grief over casualties and damages. Earthquake hospitals instructed to provide proper treatment to the injured. Journey of New Bangladesh to begin through upcoming elections. Chief Advisor urges armed forces to perform duties efficiently to ensure smooth and festive election. Government committed to fulfill dream for which freedom fighters liberated country, says Chief Advisor at reception program honoring decorated freedom fighters and their descendants. Marking Armed Forces Day, President Mohammad Shahabuddin and Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus, by placing wreaths at Sheikh Anirban, pay tribute to martyred members of armed forces who sacrificed lives in Great Liberation War. India stages fighter jet crashes at Dubai Air Show, pilot killed. And Bangladesh leading with 367 runs against Ireland at stumps of third day of Mirpur test. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to News at 10. This is Faria Dilshad Mo with you. Those are the highlights. Now let's move on to the news in details. A 5.7 magnitude earthquake struck the capital city and other parts of the country at 10:38 in the morning today. Bangladesh Meteorological Department BMD said the epicenter of the quake was located at Madhubdi in Norshindi, 13 km east from the BMD Seismic Center, Agarga in Dhaka. At least 6 people died across the country, including 6 in Dhaka. The sudden jolt prompted residents in many areas of Dhaka to rush outdoors in panic. The tremor lasted for several seconds, but people evacuated homes, offices and commercial buildings as a precautionary measure. Among the deaths, 3 pedestrians were killed in capital's Armanitola area after falling bricks from a building during the earthquake. One of the deceased was identified as Rafiqul Islam, a second-year student of Dhaka Medical College. Besides, a 10-month-old girl was killed when a wall collapsed on her in Naranganj's Rupganj Upazila during the earthquake. A building was reported to be damaged in the Chief Advisor's office. Satellite Fire Station inspected the spot, but no damage was reported. According to the preliminary report of the Fire Service Department, an 8-story building collapsed at Armanitola's Koshaituli. 2 units from Shodurghat and Siddiq Bazar fire stations went there. No damage was reported to the building. In Shutrapur Shamibag, an 8-story building was reported to have tilted on another building. Members of Shutrapur fire station went to the spot. A building was reported to be damaged in the Chief Advisor's office. Satellite Fire Station inspected the spot, but no damage was reported. A 7-story building has been reported to have collapsed on Abid Khali Road in Kolabagan. 1 unit from Mohammadpur Fire Station rushed to the spot. No casualties have been reported yet. A powerful 5.7 magnitude earthquake struck Dhaka and several other parts of Bangladesh this morning, leaving at least 6 people dead and injuring more than 200. The tremor felt at 10:38 in the morning, triggered widespread panic and caused structural damage across the capital and neighboring districts. Many residents rushed out of the homes and offices in fear, leading to a large number of injuries. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus emphasized the need for coordinated action to assess risks, support victims and prevent further casualties. Health Advisor Nur Jahan Begum, after visiting injured victims at Dhaka Medical College Hospital, said the high number of casualties resulted largely from panic-driven reactions during the quake rather than building collapses alone. In Old Dhaka's Bongshal area, 3 pedestrians were killed when the railing of a 5-story building in Koshaituli collapsed. Police recovered the bodies and sent them to the hospital for autopsy. In Mugda's Modinabag area, a 50-year-old security guard, Maqsood, died after the railing of an under-construction building gave way during the tremor. In Rupganj, Naranganj, a 10-month-old girl, Fatima Khatun, was killed when a neighboring boundary wall collapsed on her. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus has expressed profound shock and sorrow at the reports of deaths and injuries in house collapses and other incidents triggered by a powerful earthquake in several districts across the country. In a condolence message released by his press wing this afternoon, the head of the interim government prayed for eternal peace of the departed souls and conveyed his heartfelt sympathy to the bereaved families. Professor Yunus wished the injured a speedy recovery and directed all relevant officers to intensify rescue operations in the affected areas. The government is closely monitoring the situation and has initiated efforts to collect a complete assessment of the damage, he said. The chief advisor expressed hope that the people would face the situation with patience and courage. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus has said that the government is closely monitoring the situation after an earthquake and instructed all the officers concerned to immediately move to the field level and assess the possible damages. The government is aware of the public concern and anxiety following the earthquake tremors felt in different parts of the country. The situation is being closely monitored and all relevant officers have been instructed to immediately move to the field level and assess any possible damage, he said in a message released by his press wing this afternoon. The government is taking all necessary measures, giving utmost priority to public safety. The chief advisor said, adding that fire service personnel are quickly responding to the reports of damage coming immediately from various parts of the country, including the capital. Professor Yunus urged the country's people not to pay attention to any rumors or misinformation and to remain cautious. Further instructions, including through hotlines and official government channels, will be issued if necessary, he said. The chief advisor said the government is committed to ensuring the safety of all citizens. Terming the upcoming national polls a crucial chapter in Bangladesh's democratic transition, Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus expressed the hope that the members of the armed forces would perform their duties with utmost efficiency and professionalism to make the election smooth and festive. The chief advisor made the remarks while addressing a reception at Shena Kunjo in Dhaka Cantonment today on the occasion of the Armed Forces Day. At the onset of the event, 1 minute of silence was observed, paying tribute to the memories of the peoples who died in today's earthquake. Speaking on the occasion, the chief advisor expressed profound shock and sorrow at the deaths and injuries in house collapses and other incidents triggered by a powerful earthquake in several districts across the country. Recalling the contribution of the armed forces, Professor Yunus said, since the independence of the country, the armed forces have been working, standing by the people in nation building and tackling disasters alongside protecting the country's independence and sovereignty.
বাংলাদেশ সশস্ত্র বাহিনীর জন্ম 1971 সালে রণক্ষেত্রে। 71 সালের 25শে মার্চ হানাদার বাহিনীর নৃশংস আক্রমণের পরপরই 27শে মার্চ চট্টগ্রামের কালুরঘাট বেতার কেন্দ্র থেকে তৎকালীন মেজর এবং পরবর্তীতে রাষ্ট্রপতি জিয়াউর রহমান বাংলাদেশের স্বাধীনতা ঘোষণা করেছিলেন। এরই ধারাবাহিকতায় 21শে নভেম্বর সেনাবাহিনীর সাথে নৌ ও বিমান বাহিনী সম্মিলিতভাবে পাকিস্তানি বাহিনীর বিরুদ্ধে লড়াই শুরু করে। মুক্তিকামী সেনা, নৌ ও বিমান বাহিনীর অকুতোভয় বীর সেনানীরা জীবনের পরোয়া না করে, পরিবারের ভবিষ্যতের কথা চিন্তা না করে এদেশের স্বাধীনতা যুদ্ধে ঝাঁপিয়ে পড়েছিল। দেশের স্বাধীনতা সার্বভৌমত্ব রক্ষার পাশাপাশি দেশ গঠন ও জাতীয় দুর্যোগ মোকাবেলায় আপনারা সর্বদাই জনগণের পাশে থেকে কাজ করে যাচ্ছেন। 2024-এর ছাত্র জনতার অভ্যুত্থান ও চলমান দেশ পুনর্গঠন ও সংস্কারের কাজেও সশস্ত্র বাহিনী বরাবরের মতোই মানুষের পাশে দাঁড়িয়ে অব্যাহতভাবে দেশের মানুষের আস্থার প্রতিদান দিয়ে যাচ্ছে। আমি বিশ্বাস করি গণতান্ত্রিক ও নিয়মতান্ত্রিক নেতৃত্বের প্রতি অনুগত বাংলাদেশ সশস্ত্র বাহিনী তাদের পেশাগত দক্ষতা ও দেশপ্রেমের সমন্বয়ে দেশের জন্য ত্যাগ ও তৎপরতার এই ধারাবাহিকতা অক্ষুণ্ণ রাখবে। আমরা শিগগিরই একটা নির্বাচনের দিকে যাচ্ছি। নির্বাচনের মাধ্যমে আমরা নতুন বাংলাদেশের পথে যাত্রা করব। সেটাই আমাদের স্বপ্ন। এই নির্বাচন যেন সর্বাঙ্গ সুন্দর হয়, আনন্দমুখর হয়, উৎসবমুখর হয় এবং আমাদেরকে সেই যাত্রাপথে সুন্দরভাবে রওনা করে দিতে পারে। সেটার জন্য আমরা সবাই মিলে চেষ্টা করব। বাংলাদেশের গণতান্ত্রিক উত্তরণে আসন্ন নির্বাচন একটি গুরুত্বপূর্ণ অধ্যায় হিসেবে বিবেচিত হবে। আমার সুদৃঢ় বিশ্বাস এটি নির্বিঘ্ন ও উৎসবমুখর নির্বাচন হবে। এর আয়োজনে সশস্ত্র বাহিনীর সদস্যগণ দক্ষতা ও পেশাদারিত্বের সাথে এই মহান দায়িত্ব পালন করবে।
Later, Chief Advisor Professor Mahmood Yunus exchanged greetings with the dignitaries. BNP Chairperson and former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia, Chief Justice Advisors, foreign diplomats, heads of international organizations, judges, secretaries, former military officers, journalists, academics, political and eminent persons, coordinators of anti-discrimination students movement and retired officers, among other dignitaries, joined the program. Chief Advisor Professor Mahmood Yunus had a one-on-one meeting with BNP Chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia at Shenagunju. During the meeting, the Chief Advisor inquired about the physical condition of former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia and wished her recovery. BNP Chairperson Khaleda Zia thanked Professor Yunus and inquired about the physical condition of the Chief Advisor's wife, Afrozi Yunus, and wished her well. Chief Advisor Professor Mahmood Yunus has said the government is committed to building a discrimination-free, exploitation-free and welfare-oriented state as envisioned by the freedom fighters. He said this while addressing a reception according to the Gallantry Award-winning freedom fighters and their inheritors arranged by the Armed Forces Division in Dhaka Cantonment today on the occasion of the Armed Forces Day. At the ceremony, the Chief Advisor handed over a commemorative plaque to the family members of Bir Shreshto. Professor Yunus said that various activities are being conducted for the welfare of freedom fighters and this trend will continue in the future. Recalling Liberation War as the greatest event of all time in Bangladesh's history, the Chief Advisor said his government wants to build Bangladesh in such a way that the people are the source of all power and that Bangladesh is recognized in the world as a humanitarian welfare state. The Chief Advisor also called for ensuring an environment where the youth can develop their own creativity and play a role in building the country.
মহান মুক্তিযুদ্ধে বীরত্বপূর্ণ অবদানের স্বীকৃতিস্বরূপ বীর মুক্তিযোদ্ধাদের কল্যাণে বিভিন্ন কার্যক্রম পরিচালিত হচ্ছে। ভবিষ্যতেও এই ধারা অব্যাহত থাকবে বলে আমি আশাবাদী। বৈষম্যহীন, শোষণহীন, কল্যাণময় এবং মুক্ত রাষ্ট্রের জন্য যে স্বপ্ন নিয়ে মুক্তিযোদ্ধারা দেশ স্বাধীন করেছিলেন, আমরা তাদের সেই স্বপ্ন পূরণে অঙ্গীকারবদ্ধ। আমরা এখন থেকেই বাংলাদেশকে এমনভাবে গড়তে চাই যেন দেশের জনগণের সকল ক্ষমতা বাংলাদেশ যেন বিশ্বের দরবারে একটা মানবিক ও কল্যাণকর রাষ্ট্র হিসেবে সমাদৃত হয়। প্রযুক্তি, অর্থনীতি ও সামাজিক উন্নয়নের ক্ষেত্রে উন্নত বিশ্বের সাথে তাল মিলিয়ে আমাদের এগিয়ে যেতে হবে। সেই লক্ষ্যে আমাদের তরুণ সমাজ যেন সম্পদের সীমাবদ্ধতা থাকা সত্ত্বেও মেধার ভিত্তিতে নিজ নিজ সৃজনশীলতার বিকাশ ঘটিয়ে দেশ গঠনে অবদান রাখতে পারে, আমাদের সেই পরিবেশ নিশ্চিত করতে হবে। জুলাই 2024-এ নতুন বাংলাদেশ গড়ার যে সুযোগ ছাত্র জনতার সাহস ও আত্মত্যাগের বিনিময়ে আমরা অর্জন করেছি, সেটাকে কাজে লাগিয়ে আমাদের সুন্দর সমৃদ্ধশালী ভবিষ্যৎ গড়তে হবে। বীর মুক্তিযোদ্ধা, শহীদ, আহত এবং জীবিত ছাত্র জনতার কাছে আমরা প্রতিজ্ঞাবদ্ধ থাকতে চাই যেন তাদের দেয়া সুযোগ কাজে লাগিয়ে আমরা বাংলাদেশকে পৃথিবীর সামনে গণতান্ত্রিক উত্তরণের একটি দৃষ্টান্ত হিসেবে উপস্থাপন করতে পারি।
Principal Staff Officer of the Armed Forces Division, Lieutenant General S.M. Kamrul Hassan, delivered the welcome speech at the event. Later, the Chief Advisor, Professor Muhammad Yunus, exchanged greetings with the Gallantry Award-winning freedom fighters and their inheritors. On the occasion of Armed Forces Day, President Mohammad Shahabuddin and Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus paid rich tributes to the martyred members of armed forces, placing wreath at Shikha Onirban at Dhaka Cantonment this morning. At first, the President placed wreaths at Shikha Onirban. After placing wreath, the President stood in solemn silence for some time and the bugles played the last post. A smartly turned out contingent from 3 services presented state salute. President Mohammad Shahabuddin signed the visitors' book. Later, Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus paid tribute to the martyred members of armed forces by placing wreaths at Shikha Onirban. The Chief Advisor stood in solemn silence for some time and the bugles played the last post. A smartly turned out contingent formed 3 services presented state salute. Chiefs of 3 services were present. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus signed the visitors' book. Later, chiefs of the 3 services paid a courtesy call on Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus at Armed Forces Division. The Chief Advisor presented the Army Medal to Army Chief General Waqaruzzaman and unveiled the Bangladesh Armed Forces Training Compendium on the occasion of Armed Forces Day. Earlier, Army Chief General Waqaruzzaman, Navy Chief Admiral Muhammad Nazmul Hassan and Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal Hassan Mahmud Khan paid tributes to the martyred members of the armed forces by placing wreaths at Shikha Onirban. After placing wreaths, the chiefs of 3 services stood in solemn silence for some time and recalled the memory of martyrs of armed forces. On the occasion of Armed Forces Day, Chief of Army Staff General Waqaruzzaman, Chief of Naval Staff Admiral M. Nazmul Hassan and Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal Hassan Mahmud Khan paid a courtesy call on President Mohammad Shahabuddin at Bangul Bhavan this evening. Young voters are now at the center of discussion regarding the upcoming national election. A large number of young men and women will be voting for the first time in the next national election. A significant portion of the country's total voters are young people whose participation and decisions can play an important role in determining the election outcome. They want to see not only promises from the candidates but also real implementation on the ground. There are differing opinions among them regarding the use of social media in election campaigns. Social media is playing an important role in election campaigns. However, they are advising young voters to remain cautious about fake news and misleading content. Youth crime gangs have now become one of the major concerns for law enforcement agencies. They are regularly involved in various crimes such as murder, extortion, snatching, drug abuse, and grabbing, and eavesdropping. The reckless activities of these gangs have made the residents of the capital distressed. According to the Ministry of Home Affairs, the number of active youth crime gangs in the country stands at 237. Among them, the highest number is in the capital Dhaka, 127 gangs. Chattogram has 57, while other districts have 35. The Dhaka Metropolitan Police says that although they are known as juvenile gangs, many of their members are actually young men aged 25 to 26. However, regardless of the name, the issue is being treated with the utmost importance. However, along with legal actions, families and society are also being urged to come forward. Experts say that drug addiction, poverty, family neglect, frustration, unemployment, misuse of the internet, lack of proper education, and deficiency in religious values are the main causes behind the formation of youth crime gangs. Now moving on to international news.